The blood on Delilah Anderson's hands had dried hours ago, but she could still feel its sticky warmth as she stumbled into Bentonville, Arkansas, just as the sun began its descent behind the Ozark Mountains in the summer of 1878. She had killed a man, not because she wanted to, but because he had left her no choice, and now every lawman between here and Missouri would be hunting for the woman who had shot Samuel Crawford in that cramped Kansas City hotel room. Her dress was torn at the hem, her dark hair had escaped its pins, and her green eyes held a wildness that made the townspeople step aside as she made her way down the main street, searching desperately for somewhere to hide, somewhere to rest, somewhere to figure out what came next in a life that had just shattered into 1,000 pieces. The general store was closing for the evening, but Delilah pushed through the door anyway, causing the bell to jangle loudly. The proprietor, an older woman with silver hair and suspicious eyes, looked up from her ledger. "We are closed, miss." "Please," Delilah said, her voice hoarse from crying and lack of water. "I just need some supplies. I can pay." The woman's expression softened slightly when Delilah pulled out a small leather purse. Money talked, even in a respectable town like Bentonville. "5 minutes, that is all I can spare." Delilah grabbed bread, dried meat, a canteen, and a simple cotton dress that looked like it might fit. She paid quickly, more than the items were worth, and asked, "Is there work in this town? For a woman who is good with her hands?" "The saloon is always hiring," the woman said with a disapproving sniff. "I meant honest work. There is a ranch about 3 miles north, the Yates place. Isaac Yates runs it with his hands. He lost his cook 2 weeks ago when she married and moved to Little Rock. He has been eating in town since then, complaining about the expense." The woman's eyes narrowed. "You running from something, girl?" "A bad past," Delilah answered, which was true enough. "I am trying to start fresh." "Aren't we all?" the woman muttered, but she drew a simple map on a piece of brown paper. "Follow the main road north until you see the split oak. Turn west. You cannot miss it." Delilah thanked her and left quickly, changing into the new dress behind the general store before shoving her stained clothing into a rain barrel. The cool water felt like absolution, though she knew better. Nothing could wash away what she had done, even if it had been self-defense. Samuel Crawford had been a powerful man with powerful friends, and his version of events, whatever lies his associates would concoct, would be believed long before anyone listened to a woman with no family and no standing. The walk to the Yates ranch took longer than expected because darkness fell quickly in the Ozarks, and Delilah had to feel her way along the road more than once. By the time she saw the lamplight glowing from the ranch house windows, her feet were blistered and her courage was nearly spent. She stood at the edge of the property for a long moment, considering turning back, finding somewhere else, anywhere else. But she was exhausted and desperate, and the smell of wood smoke from the chimney reminded her that she had not eaten a proper meal in days. She knocked on the door. Heavy footsteps approached from inside, and then the door swung open to reveal a man who took Delilah's breath away, though she immediately chastised herself for such foolish thoughts at such a dangerous time. He was tall, perhaps 30 years old, with dark hair that curled slightly at his collar and blue eyes that seemed to see straight through her pretenses. He wore work clothes, his shirt sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms tanned from the sun, and there was a wariness in his expression that suggested he was not accustomed to unexpected visitors. "Help you?" His voice was deep, with a slight drawl that spoke of years spent in the Arkansas hills. "I heard in town that you need a cook," Delilah said, forcing her voice to remain steady. "I am looking for work." Isaac Yates looked her over, not in an improper way but with the assessing gaze of a man who had learned to judge character quickly. You have experience. I cooked for a boarding house in St. Louis for 3 years, Delilah lied, though she had watched the cook there often enough that she thought she could manage. I can bake bread, prepare meals for working men, and I keep a clean kitchen. Where are you coming from? Kansas City. My employer passed away, and his son did not need my services. It was close enough to the truth that Delilah did not stumble over the words. Isaac studied her for another long moment, and she wondered what he saw. A desperate woman, certainly. A woman with secrets, probably. But perhaps also a woman who was willing to work hard for a second chance. I have 5 ranch hands who need feeding 3 times a day, he said finally. Breakfast at dawn, lunch at noon, supper at sunset. The pay is $15 a month plus room and board. The room is small, just off the kitchen, but it is clean and has a good lock on the door. I run a respectable operation here, Miss Anderson. Delilah Anderson, Miss Anderson. I expect hard work, but I treat my people fairly. You will be safe here if that is what you are looking for. The kindness in his words nearly undid her. Delilah blinked back tears and nodded. When can I start? You eaten today? Not much. Isaac stepped back, opening the door wider. Come in. I will make you something and you can start fresh in the morning. Fair enough. It was more than fair. It was merciful, and Delilah did not deserve mercy. But she took it anyway because the alternative was returning to the road, to the darkness, to the inevitability of being caught. The ranch house was larger than it had appeared from outside, with a spacious main room that served as both sitting area and dining space. A stone fireplace dominated one wall, and rough-hewn furniture gave the place a masculine but comfortable feel. Isaac led her through to the kitchen, which was surprisingly well equipped with a cast-iron stove, sturdy work tables, and shelves lined with supplies. Sit, he instructed, pointing to a chair at the small kitchen table. You look like you might fall over. Delilah sat gratefully while Isaac moved around the kitchen with surprising competence. He sliced bread, pulled out cold chicken from the ice box, and poured her a cup of water from a pitcher. When he set the simple meal in front of her, their hands brushed briefly, and Delilah felt something spark between them, something dangerous and entirely inappropriate given her circumstances. Thank you, she whispered. Isaac sat across from her, watching as she forced herself to eat slowly despite her hunger. You are not from Kansas City originally. It was not a question, but Delilah answered anyway. Kentucky. My family had a farm near Lexington. They died. Cholera 5 years ago. I was 18 and alone, so I went where I could find work. This part was true, and the grief that crossed her face was genuine. Isaac's expression softened further. I am sorry. I lost my parents young as well. A winter fever took them both when I was 22. I have been running this ranch alone since then. No wife, the question escaped before Delilah could stop it. Almost. She decided ranch life was not for her and married a banker instead. That was 4 years ago. There was no bitterness in his tone, only acceptance. What about you? No husband? No, I have not had much luck with men. Their loss, Isaac said simply, and the compliment, delivered without artifice or expectation, made Delilah's cheeks warm. They talked for another hour, carefully avoiding any topics that might reveal too much. Isaac told her about the ranch, which raised cattle and horses, and about his 5 hands who were good men but ate like bears. Delilah shared carefully edited stories from her time in St. Louis, describing the boarding house and its eccentric residents with enough detail to make her lies convincing. Finally, Isaac showed her to the small room off the kitchen. It was indeed small, but the bed looked soft, and there was a washstand with a clean basin and pitcher. A rag rug covered the wooden floor, and a simple curtain hung over the single window. Breakfast is usually at 5:30, Isaac said from the doorway. But tomorrow you rest. I will handle breakfast for the men and you can start with lunch. That will give you time to settle in and get a feel for the kitchen. You do not have to do that, I know, but you look exhausted and I would rather you start when you are rested. He paused, his blue eyes searching her face. Whatever you are running from, Miss Anderson, it does not have to follow you here. Bentonville is a good place for fresh starts. Delilah wanted to believe him. She wanted it so desperately that it physically hurt. Thank you, Mr. Yates. Isaac, we do not stand on formality around here. Then you should call me Delilah. He smiled, and it transformed his entire face from merely handsome to truly beautiful. Good night, Delilah. Lock your door and sleep well. After he left, Delilah did lock the door and she lay down on the bed without even removing her shoes. She expected nightmares, expected to see Samuel Crawford's face contorted in rage as he had lunged for her, expected to relive the moment when the Derringer had fired and he had fallen. But instead she slept dreamlessly, deeply, and woke to sunshine streaming through the window and the sound of men's voices outside. For a moment, she forgot where she was and why she was there. Then memory returned, bringing with it the familiar weight of guilt and fear. But underneath those feelings was something new, something fragile and tentative. Hope, perhaps, or at least the possibility of hope. Delilah rose, washed her face in the basin, and pinned her hair into a neat bun. Her reflection in the small mirror showed dark circles under her eyes and a thinness to her face that spoke of too many missed meals, but her green eyes held determination. She had been given a chance, and she would not waste it. When she emerged from her room, she found the kitchen empty but the stove already warm. Someone, presumably Isaac, had laid out supplies on the work table. Flour, eggs, bacon, potatoes, coffee. Everything she would need to prepare a proper lunch for hungry men. Delilah set to work. Her mother had taught her to cook before the cholera had taken her, and while she had exaggerated her experience at the boarding house, she was not entirely incompetent. She made biscuits, fried bacon and potatoes, and put on a large pot of coffee. By the time noon approached, she had a respectable meal prepared. Isaac appeared first, dust on his clothes and sweat on his brow. He removed his hat and smiled when he saw the spread on the dining table. "This looks wonderful. I hope it tastes good too." "I am sure it will. Let me get the men." The 5 ranch hands who filed in were a diverse group. Tom was the oldest, perhaps 50, with graying hair and a kind face. Brothers Jake and Luke were in their 20s, looking enough alike to be twins, though Luke claimed to be 2 years older. Marcus was quiet and kept to himself, a freedman who had come west after the war. And young Billy was barely 18, eager and talkative. They all treated Delilah with polite respect, though she caught them sneaking curious glances when they thought she was not looking. No doubt they were wondering about the new cook who had appeared out of nowhere. "Best meal we have had in weeks," Tom declared after his first bite of biscuit. "Isaac, you found us a treasure." "Thank her, not me," Isaac said, but his eyes met Delilah's across the table with a warmth that made her pulse quicken. Over the following weeks, Delilah settled into ranch life with surprising ease. She rose early to prepare breakfast, spent her mornings baking and planning meals, cooked lunch and supper, and fell into bed each night exhausted but satisfied. The work was hard, but it was honest, and for the first time since killing Samuel Crawford, she began to feel almost human again. Isaac was a good employer, firm but fair, and he checked on her regularly to ensure she had everything she needed. They fell into a comfortable rhythm, often talking in the evenings after the hands had retired to the bunkhouse. Isaac told her about his dreams for the ranch, about wanting to raise the finest horses in Arkansas. Delilah shared more carefully edited stories from her past, always careful to keep her lies consistent. But she could not help noticing the way Isaac looked at her sometimes, with an intensity that suggested his feelings were becoming more than merely professional. And she could not deny her own growing attraction to him, the way her heart raced when he smiled at her, the way she found excuses to be near him. One evening in late July, Isaac found her in the garden behind the house, where she had planted vegetables to supplement the meals. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, and Delilah was kneeling in the dirt, pulling weeds from around the tomato plants. "You have transformed this place," Isaac said, startling her. "I have not seen this garden look so good since my mother tended it." Delilah stood, brushing dirt from her skirt. "It gives me something to do in the quiet hours. I hope you do not mind." "Mind, I am grateful." He moved closer, and in the fading light his blue eyes were almost black. "Delilah, I need to talk to you about something." Her heart seized. Had he learned the truth? Was he about to send her away? "What is it?" "I know we have only known each other a short time," Isaac said, and now she could hear the nervousness in his voice. "But I have to be honest with you. I have developed feelings for you, strong feelings. I think about you constantly, and not just as my cook. I know this might not be appropriate, given that I am your employer, but I needed you to know." Relief and panic warred within Delilah. She wanted this, wanted him, with an intensity that frightened her. But she did not deserve it, not when she was living a lie. "Isaac, I am not who you think I am. I know you are running from something. I have known since the first night you arrived. I do not care. You should care. I am not a good person." "That is not true. You do not know what I have done." Isaac reached for her hand, his calloused fingers warm against her skin. "Then tell me. Whatever it is, we will face it together." Delilah wanted to pull away, to protect him from the mess her life had become. But his touch grounded her, made her feel safe in a way she had not felt in months. "I killed a man." She said it baldly, without preamble or excuse, and watched Isaac's face for signs of disgust or fear. But his expression remained steady, concerned but not condemning. "Why?" he asked simply. "He attacked me." Samuel Crawford was a wealthy businessman in Kansas City. I was working at a hotel, cleaning rooms to earn money. He came to his room while I was there, and he tried to force himself on me. I had a small gun, a Derringer I carried for protection. I shot him. The words tumbled out in a rush. It was self-defense, but he was rich and powerful, and I am nobody. I knew no one would believe me, so I ran. "You ran here?" "Yes." Isaac was quiet for a long moment, his thumb tracing circles on the back of her hand. "You did what you had to do to survive." "That does not make you a bad person, Delilah. That makes you a survivor. His friends might come looking for me. Then we will deal with them if they do." Isaac stepped closer, his free hand coming up to cup her cheek. "I meant what I said. I have feelings for you, strong ones. This does not change that. It should. I am dangerous to be around. My presence here puts you and your men at risk. You are worth the risk." "How can you say that? You barely know me." "I know enough. I know you work hard. I know you are kind to my men and to the animals. I know you have a good heart, even if you have been hurt. I know that since you arrived, this house has felt like a home again instead of just a place where I sleep between working." His voice dropped lower, more intimate. "And I know that when I look at you, I see my future." Delilah shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I will only disappoint you." Isaac leaned down, his forehead resting against hers. "You have already made me the happiest man. Everything else is just details we will figure out together." The kiss, when it came, was inevitable. Delilah rose on her toes and Isaac bent down, and their lips met with a tenderness that made her ache. It was gentle and sweet and full of promise, and for those few moments, Delilah allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could have this. Have him. Have a life beyond fear and running. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "We should be careful," Delilah whispered. "We should keep this quiet until we know it is safe." "I do not want to hide you, not hide, just be cautious. Please, Isaac, for your sake." He nodded reluctantly. "If that is what you need." "But Delilah, I want you to know that I am serious about this, about us. When the time is right, I want to make you my wife." The word sent a thrill through her. Wife. To be Isaac Yates's wife, to belong to him and have him belong to her, to build a life together on this ranch in the Arkansas hills. It was a dream she had not dared to dream. "Let's take it slowly," she said. "One day at a time. I can do that, as long as all those days lead to you." They stood in the garden as darkness fell completely, holding each other, both aware that their lives had just changed irrevocably. For better or worse, they were bound together now, and whatever came next, they would face it side by side. The summer gave way to autumn, and Delilah's fear of discovery began to ease. No lawmen came asking questions. No strangers appeared looking for a woman matching her description. Either Samuel Crawford's death had been attributed to someone else, or his associates had decided she was not worth pursuing. Either way, each quiet day felt like a gift. Her relationship with Isaac deepened, though they were discreet around the ranch hands. Stolen kisses in the garden. Late-night conversations in the kitchen after everyone else had gone to bed. Lingering touches that spoke of desires they were both restraining out of respect for propriety. It was sweet agony, this careful courtship, but it was also the most romance Delilah had ever known. Isaac courted her properly, with small gifts and careful attention. He brought her wildflowers from the meadow. He fixed the squeaky hinge on her door without being asked. He listened when she talked, truly listened, and remembered details she had mentioned in passing. He made her feel seen and valued in a way no one else ever had. In October, Isaac took her into Bentonville on a supply run. It was her first time back in town since the night she had arrived, and Delilah felt exposed and vulnerable walking down the main street in broad daylight. But Isaac's steady presence beside her was reassuring, and no one gave her more than a friendly nod. They visited the general store, where the silver-haired proprietor, Mrs. Henderson, greeted them warmly. "So you took my advice about the Yates Ranch. Are you settling in well?" "Very well, thank you." "She is the best cook in 3 counties," Isaac added, and the pride in his voice made Delilah blush. Mrs. Henderson's eyes sparkled with knowing amusement. "Is she now? Well, you best hold on to her tight, Mr. Yates. Good cooks are hard to find." "I intend to," Isaac said, and the way he looked at Delilah left no doubt about his meaning. After the general store, they stopped at the mercantile for additional supplies, and then Isaac surprised her by leading her to a small shop near the edge of town. A hand-painted sign proclaimed it to be Emily's Dressmaking and Fine Goods. "What are we doing here?" Delilah asked. "You need a new dress, a nice one, for special occasions." "Isaac, you pay me wages. I can buy my own dresses, I know, but I want to buy you this one, please." The earnestness in his face melted her resistance. Inside, they were greeted by Emily, a cheerful woman in her 30s who took one look at them and smiled broadly. "Let me guess. You are looking for something special for a particular event, we might be," Isaac said vaguely. Emily measured Delilah and showed her fabrics, and together they settled on a beautiful emerald green silk that matched Delilah's eyes. "This will take me 2 weeks," Emily said. "Is that acceptable?" "Perfect," Isaac agreed, paying a deposit before Delilah could protest. Outside, Delilah turned to him with raised eyebrows. What particular event did she mean? Isaac took her hand, right there on the main street where anyone could see. The one where I ask you to marry me and you say yes and we celebrate with a wedding. You have not asked me yet. Not officially. I am waiting for the right moment. And when will that be? You will know when it happens, Isaac promised, his eyes twinkling. The right moment came 2 weeks later on a crisp November evening. Isaac had asked Delilah to ride out with him to check on the herd, which was grazing in the far pasture. They rode side by side, Delilah on a gentle mare that Isaac had trained specifically for her, enjoying the peace of the countryside and each other's company. When they reached the top of a hill that overlooked the ranch, Isaac dismounted and helped Delilah down. The sun was setting, casting the same orange and pink glow that had lit the sky the first time Isaac had confessed his feelings. "I love this view," Delilah said, looking out over the rolling hills and the ranch buildings in the distance. "I can see why you chose to settle here." "It is even better now that I can share it with you," Isaac said. He took both her hands in his, and Delilah felt her heart begin to race. "Delilah Anderson, I have something important to ask you." "Isaac, let me say this before I lose my nerve." He took a deep breath. "These past months have been the best of my life. You have brought light and warmth and joy into a home that was just a house before you arrived. You have made me remember what it feels like to want to come home at the end of a long day. You have made me believe in the possibility of a future filled with love and laughter." Tears were already streaming down Delilah's face. "You have given me something I thought I would never have again. Safety, kindness, a place to belong. Then stay. Not as my cook, but as my wife. Marry me, Delilah. Build a life with me here. Have children with me, grow old with me, be my partner in all things." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple gold band. "I know it is not fancy, but it belonged to my grandmother and my mother after her, and I would be honored if you would wear it." The ring blurred through her tears. "I do not deserve you. You deserve everything good this world has to offer. And I know I am not much, just a rancher with dirt under his fingernails and calloused hands, but I promise I will spend every day trying to make you happy. I will protect you and provide for you and love you with everything I have." His voice grew urgent. "Say yes, Delilah. Please say yes." She wanted to say yes more than she wanted her next breath. But fear held her back, the fear that this happiness was temporary, that her past would catch up with her and destroy everything. "What if someone comes looking for me? What if my past ruins your life? Then we will face it together." "I am not afraid of your past, Delilah. I am only afraid of a future without you in it." The sincerity in his words broke through her last defenses. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I will marry you." Isaac's whoop of joy startled the horses and sent a flock of birds flying from a nearby tree. He spun her around, both of them laughing and crying at once, and when he set her down, he slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. "I love you," Delilah said, the words feeling both new and ancient on her tongue. "I love you so much. I love you too. More than I knew it was possible to love anyone." They kissed as the sun set behind them, sealing their promise to each other with a tenderness that spoke of forever. They were married 3 weeks later in a simple ceremony at the church in Bentonville. Delilah wore the emerald green dress Emily had made, which fit her perfectly and brought out the color of her eyes. Isaac wore his best suit, cleaned and pressed for the occasion, and looked so handsome that Delilah's breath caught when she saw him waiting at the altar. The ranch hands attended, all of them dressed in their Sunday best and grinning like fools. Mrs. Henderson came, and Emily the dressmaker, and several other townspeople who had gotten to know Delilah during her supply trips. It was a small gathering, but it felt full of love and support. The Reverend, an elderly man named Pastor Williams, conducted the ceremony with warmth and humor. When he asked if anyone objected to the union, Delilah held her breath, half expecting someone to burst through the doors with accusations and arrest warrants. But there was only supportive silence, and then Isaac was sliding another ring onto her finger, a matching gold band, and promising to love and cherish her for all his days. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," Pastor Williams declared. "You may kiss your bride." Isaac did, thoroughly and enthusiastically, to the hoots and applause of the assembled guests. When they finally broke apart, both were flushed and grinning, and Delilah felt a happiness so complete it was almost painful. The celebration afterward was held at the ranch, with tables set up in the yard and food enough to feed twice the number of guests. Delilah had spent days preparing with help from some of the ranch wives, and the spread included roasted chicken, beef, fresh bread, vegetables from the garden, and pies of every description. There was music too, with Jake playing fiddle and Luke on harmonica and dancing that lasted until the stars came out. Isaac held Delilah close as they swayed to a slow tune, his arms around her waist, her head resting on his chest. "Happy," he murmured into her hair. "Incredibly. Impossibly. I did not know happiness like this existed. Get used to it, Mrs. Yates. I plan to keep you this happy for the rest of our lives." Mrs. Yates. The name sent a thrill through her. She was no longer Delilah Anderson, woman on the run. She was Delilah Yates, wife and partner and beloved. It was a transformation more complete than any she could have imagined. When the guests finally left and the hands retired to the bunkhouse, Isaac carried Delilah over the threshold of their home. Not the small room off the kitchen where she had been sleeping, but the master bedroom on the second floor, which Isaac had spent the past week preparing. There were fresh curtains on the windows, a quilt his mother had made covering the bed, and wildflowers in a vase on the dresser. "It is beautiful," Delilah breathed. "You are beautiful," Isaac countered. He set her down gently, his hands coming up to cup her face. "Are you nervous?" "A little." "You, terrified," he admitted with a self-deprecating laugh. "I want everything to be perfect for you." Delilah reached up and kissed him softly. "It already is. You already are." What followed was tender and intimate, a joining of not just bodies but souls. Isaac was gentle and patient, taking his time, making sure Delilah felt cherished and safe. There was some pain, as was natural for a first time, but there was also pleasure and connection, and a sense of rightness that made Delilah understand why people spoke of marriage as becoming one flesh. Afterward, they lay tangled together in the sheets, both sated and drowsy. Isaac traced lazy patterns on Delilah's bare shoulder, and she played with the hair on his chest, marveling at the intimacy of it all. "I never thought I would have this," she confessed into the darkness. "After everything that happened, I thought I was destined to be alone forever." "You will never be alone again," Isaac promised. "You are mine now, and I am yours, and nothing will ever change that." Delilah wanted to believe him, and for the first time in a very long time, she allowed herself to hope that maybe she could. The first year of their marriage was idyllic in ways Delilah had only read about in novels. They worked side by side during the day, Isaac managing the ranch while Delilah handled the household and continued cooking for the hands. But the evenings were theirs alone, spent in companionable silence or animated conversation, depending on their moods. Isaac taught Delilah to ride better, taking her on long excursions through the countryside. They picnicked by streams and made love in meadows and talked about their dreams for the future. Delilah wanted children, at least 2 or 3, and Isaac wanted to expand the ranch, maybe buy the adjacent property that was rumored to be for sale. They fought sometimes, as all couples do, usually about small things that were forgotten within hours. Isaac had a tendency to work too hard and not rest enough. Delilah could be stubborn about accepting help, even when she was clearly overwhelmed. But they always made up before bed, neither willing to sleep with anger between them. In the spring of 1879, Delilah discovered she was pregnant. She had suspected for a few weeks, but she waited to tell Isaac until she was certain. She chose a quiet evening after a particularly good dinner when they were sitting together on the porch watching the sunset. "I have something to tell you," she said, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. Isaac looked over at her, curious. "Good news, I hope." "Very good news. We are going to have a baby." For a moment, Isaac just stared at her, his expression unreadable. Then a slow smile spread across his face, growing wider and wider until he was grinning like a madman. "Are you certain?" "As certain as I can be. I should see a doctor to confirm, but all the signs are there." Isaac pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "A baby! We are going to have a baby! Delilah, this is wonderful! You are happy!" "Happy, I am ecstatic. I am over the moon. I am the luckiest man alive." He pulled back to look at her, his blue eyes shining with unshed tears. "You have given me everything, do you know that? A home, a purpose, and now a child. I do not know what I did to deserve you, but I thank God for you every single day." Delilah was crying too now, happy tears that she made no effort to hide. "I love you so much." "I love you too, both of you." He placed a hand on her still flat stomach. "Hello, little one. Your papa is already so excited to meet you." The pregnancy progressed smoothly, though Delilah suffered from morning sickness for the first few months and had to adjust her cooking schedule accordingly. The ranch hands were all thrilled by the news, treating Delilah with even more care than usual. Tom insisted on taking over the heavier chores, like carrying water and chopping wood. The brothers built a cradle in their spare time, a beautiful piece with intricate carvings. Marcus whittled small toys, and young Billy talked excitedly about teaching the baby to ride horses someday. Isaac was attentive to the point of being overprotective. He tried to stop Delilah from working too hard, which led to their biggest fight yet when she told him in no uncertain terms that she was pregnant, not an invalid. They reached a compromise where Delilah agreed to rest more and accept help, and Isaac agreed to stop hovering quite so much. Dr. Miller, the physician in Bentonville, examined Delilah and pronounced both mother and baby healthy. He estimated the baby would arrive in early December, which meant Delilah would spend her final months of pregnancy during the easier autumn season rather than the brutal summer heat. As her belly grew, Delilah found herself thinking more about her own mother, wishing desperately that she could be there to offer advice and support. The pain of her family's loss, which had dulled over the years, sharpened again, but Isaac's steady presence helped ease the ache. He talked about his own parents, sharing memories that made them both laugh and cry, and together they created their own family traditions. In late November, as Delilah's due date approached, Isaac became increasingly anxious. He checked on her constantly, made sure she was never alone for long, and drove into town twice to remind Dr. Miller that he might be needed at any moment. "You are going to wear yourself out," Delilah told him one evening as they prepared for bed. She was enormous now, her belly so large she could barely see her feet, and she waddled more than walked. But she felt good, healthy and strong and ready to meet their child. "I just want everything to go smoothly," Isaac said, helping her into bed with gentle hands. "I could not bear it if something happened to you. Nothing is going to happen to me. Women have been having babies since the beginning of time." "I know, but you are my woman and this is my baby, and the thought of losing either of you terrifies me." Delilah took his face in her hands. "I am not going anywhere. This baby is not going anywhere except out into the world where we can hold them. Have faith, my love. The labor began 3 days later, early in the morning on December 3rd. Delilah woke to a cramping pain in her lower back and knew immediately what it meant. She shook Isaac awake. It is time. Isaac bolted upright, instantly alert despite the early hour. Are you sure? Very sure. Send someone for the doctor. Isaac was already pulling on his pants. I will go myself. I can ride faster. You are not leaving me alone. Right, of course. He ran a hand through his hair, clearly flustered. I will send Tom. He can ride almost as fast as me. By the time Dr. Miller arrived 2 hours later, Delilah's contractions were coming regularly and intensely. The doctor set up in the bedroom, shooing Isaac out despite his protests. Fathers do not belong in birthing rooms, Dr. Miller said firmly. You will only be in the way. Go pace somewhere else. Isaac retreated reluctantly, and for the next 8 hours he wore a path in the kitchen floor while above him, Delilah labored to bring their child into the world. The ranch hands kept him company in shifts, offering awkward comfort and distracting him with talk of the ranch. The birth was hard but not complicated. Delilah was strong and Dr. Miller was experienced, and when the baby finally emerged with a lusty cry just as the sun was setting, both mother and child were healthy. You have a son, Dr. Miller announced, wrapping the baby in clean blankets. A son. Delilah reached for him immediately, and when the doctor placed the tiny, squirming bundle in her arms, she fell instantly and completely in love. He had a shock of dark hair like his father and the same blue eyes, though Dr. Miller assured her that baby eyes often changed color. He was perfect from his tiny fingers to his wrinkled toes, and Delilah could not stop staring at him. Can I bring the father in now? Dr. Miller asked with a knowing smile. Yes, please. Isaac burst into the room moments later, his face pale with worry. Are you all right? Is the baby all right? I heard crying. We are both fine, Delilah assured him. Come meet your son. Isaac approached the bed like he was in a daze. When he saw the baby cradled in Delilah's arms, his expression transformed into one of pure wonder. He is so small. He will grow. Hold him. Isaac's hands were shaking as he took the baby, supporting the tiny head like Dr. Miller had showed him. His son stared up at him with unfocused blue eyes, and Isaac made a choked sound that was half laugh, half sob. Hello, little man. I am your papa. We need to name him, Delilah said. They had discussed names for months, unable to agree on anything that felt quite right. But now, looking at her husband holding their son with such tender care, Delilah knew exactly what the baby should be called. James, she said. James Isaac Yates, after your father. Isaac looked up at her, his eyes wet. Are you certain? Very certain. Your father would be proud to have a grandson bearing his name. James, Isaac repeated, testing the sound. James Isaac Yates. Welcome to the world, son. Welcome home. The months that followed were exhausting and exhilarating in equal measure. James was a good baby, healthy and strong, but he still required constant attention. Delilah and Isaac took turns with night feedings, both of them stumbling around half asleep but blissfully happy. The ranch hands were utterly smitten with the baby. Tom carved him a rocking horse. Jake and Luke competed to make him laugh. Marcus fashioned a mobile that hung over the cradle, with wooden animals that spun in the breeze. Billy appointed himself as James's future riding instructor and talked constantly about all the things he would teach him. As winter gave way to spring, and then summer, James grew and thrived. He smiled at 6 weeks, laughed at 3 months, and by 6 months was attempting to crawl. Isaac was a devoted father, spending every spare moment with his son. He talked to James constantly, telling him about the ranch and the horses and all the things they would do together when James was older. Delilah watched her husband and son together and felt such overwhelming love that sometimes it brought her to tears. This life, this family, this home, it was more than she had ever dared to hope for. The fear that had haunted her first year in Bentonville had faded to a distant memory. She had been here for over 2 years now, and no one had come looking for her. Samuel Crawford was well and truly in her past, and she could finally, fully embrace her present and future. On their second wedding anniversary, Isaac surprised her with the news that he had purchased the adjacent property they had discussed. It doubled the size of the ranch and included a natural spring that would be invaluable during dry summers. "How did you afford this?" Delilah asked, shocked. "I have been saving for years, and the cattle sales this year were particularly good. We can handle it, Delilah. This will secure James's future and any other children we might have." "Other children?" She raised an eyebrow. "Are you hoping for more?" "I would not say no to a houseful." "But only if you want them to." Delilah thought about it. The birth had been hard, but not unbearably so, and she had recovered well. And the thought of James having siblings, of not being alone the way she had been after her parents died, appealed to her. "I think I would like that. A house full of little Yates children running around the ranch." "Then let's work on that," Isaac said with a grin, pulling her into his arms. Their second child, a daughter they named Sarah Marie, was born in the spring of 1881. The birth was easier than James's had been, and Sarah was a calm, peaceful baby who rarely cried. She had Delilah's green eyes and a sweet disposition that charmed everyone who met her. James, now a toddler of 16 months, was fascinated by his baby sister. He would sit next to her cradle for hours, patting her gently and singing nonsense songs. Isaac was equally smitten, declaring that he now had both a son to help him run the ranch and a daughter to wrap him around her little finger. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm. The ranch prospered under Isaac's careful management. Delilah managed the household and raised the children, with help from Isaac and the hands. They attended church on Sundays, participated in town events, and became respected members of the Bentonville community. In 1883, their third child was born, another son they named Daniel Thomas after Isaac's grandfather. Daniel was a difficult baby, colicky and fussy, and those first few months tested Delilah and Isaac's patience. But they weathered it together, taking turns walking the floor with a crying baby, supporting each other through the exhaustion. "I am starting to understand why people space their children further apart," Delilah joked one night after finally getting Daniel to sleep. Isaac, who was holding a sleeping Sarah while James snored softly in his little bed, chuckled quietly. "Are you saying we should stop at 3? I am saying we might want to wait a few years before considering a fourth. I can live with that." The years passed in a blur of birthdays and holidays and ordinary days that somehow added up to an extraordinary life. James grew into a serious, responsible boy who followed his father around the ranch, learning everything he could about cattle and horses. Sarah was gentle and creative, always drawing pictures or making up stories. Daniel was mischievous and energetic, keeping everyone on their toes. In 1886, when James was 6, Sarah was 5, and Daniel was 3, Delilah discovered she was pregnant again. It was unexpected, as they had been trying to prevent another pregnancy for a while, but both she and Isaac were pleased. 4 children felt like a good number, a proper family. This fourth baby, another daughter they named Emily Rose, was born in early 1887. She was tiny but fierce, making her presence known from the moment she entered the world. Delilah, now 31 and experienced at this motherhood business, handled the birth with more ease than she had with the others. Isaac, at 39, declared himself complete. 4 healthy children, a thriving ranch, and the love of my life by my side. I am the richest man in Arkansas." "We could have more," Delilah teased, though she was secretly relieved he felt complete. 4 children kept her busy enough. 4 is perfect. Besides, we are getting old. "Speak for yourself," Delilah retorted, swatting him playfully. The children grew, and the ranch grew with them. Isaac expanded the horse breeding operation, developing a reputation for producing some of the finest quarter horses in the state. Buyers came from as far away as Texas and Oklahoma to purchase Yates horses. The hands who had been there when Delilah first arrived remained loyal, though there were changes. Billy married and moved to his own small spread nearby. Marcus also married, to a schoolteacher from Little Rock, and they built a house on ranch property where they raised their own children. Tom retired in 1888, too old for the hard work but staying on as an advisor. Jake and Luke continued working the ranch, both confirmed bachelors who claimed they were married to the land. New hands were hired as the operation expanded, and Delilah found herself cooking for 8 or 9 men most days. But she did not mind. The kitchen had always been her domain, the place where she felt most competent and in control. In 1890, James turned 10 and began taking on more responsibility around the ranch. He was a natural horseman, with his father's patience and his mother's determination. Sarah, now 9, started helping Delilah more in the house, learning to cook and sew and manage a household. Daniel, at 7, was still more interested in playing than working, but he showed promise with the animals. And little Emily, at 3, was the princess of the ranch, adored by everyone. It was a good life, a happy life, and Delilah thanked God for it every single day. But in the late summer of 1890, her past came calling. A stranger rode into the ranch yard one afternoon while Isaac and the hands were out with the herd. Delilah was in the garden with Emily harvesting vegetables for dinner when she heard the horse approach. She straightened, wiping sweat from her brow, and felt her heart skip when she saw the man dismounting. He was middle-aged, well-dressed, with a marshal's badge pinned to his vest. "Can I help you?" Delilah asked, fighting to keep her voice steady. After 12 years, she had almost convinced herself this moment would never come, but here it was, unavoidable and terrifying. "I am looking for Isaac Yates," the marshal said, removing his hat politely. "He is out on the range." "I am his wife. Can I give him a message?" The marshal studied her face carefully, and Delilah saw the moment recognition dawned. "You are Delilah Anderson." It was not a question. Delilah's knees went weak, but she forced herself to stand tall. "I was, a long time ago. I am Delilah Yates now." "Mama, who is that man?" Emily asked, tugging on Delilah's skirt. "Go inside, sweetheart. Find your brothers and sister and stay with them until Papa comes home." "But Mama." "Now, Emily." Something in Delilah's tone must have conveyed the seriousness of the situation, because Emily obeyed without further argument, running toward the house. Once she was gone, Delilah turned back to the marshal. "Are you here to arrest me?" "That depends." "Are you the Delilah Anderson who shot and killed Samuel Crawford in Kansas City in 1878? There was no point in denying it." "I am, but it was self-defense. He attacked me." "I know." Delilah blinked, certain she had misheard. "What?" "I said I know. That is why I am here." The marshal pulled a folded paper from his pocket. "May I explain?" Still stunned. Delilah nodded. "My name is Marshal Henry Cooper. I have been investigating Samuel Crawford's business dealings for the past 3 years. He was involved in all kinds of illegal activities, including fraud, extortion, and intimidation. During my investigation, I interviewed dozens of people who had dealings with Crawford. Several women came forward with stories similar to yours about how Crawford attacked them. Hope began to flutter in Delilah's chest, fragile and terrifying. "So you believe me?" "I do. Crawford was a predator who used his wealth and influence to escape consequences. You were not his first victim, Miss Anderson, I mean Mrs. Yates, and you would not have been his last if you had not stopped him." Marshall Cooper unfolded the paper. "This is a statement from Crawford's business partner, a man named Thomas Mitchell. He was with Crawford the night he died. He heard the struggle, heard Crawford threatening you, and heard the gunshot. He did not come forward at the time because he was afraid of Crawford's other associates. But he is willing to testify now that Crawford's death was self-defense." Delilah could not speak. Tears were streaming down her face and her hands were shaking. After 12 years of fear, 12 years of looking over her shoulder, 12 years of waiting for this moment, she was being told she was not a criminal. She was a victim who had defended herself, nothing more. "Are you all right, Mrs. Yates?" Marshall Cooper asked with concern. "I spent 12 years thinking I was a murderer," Delilah whispered. 12 years running and hiding and living in fear. "I am sorry for that. If you had stayed and told your story, things might have been different, but I understand why you ran. Women in your situation rarely get justice." He handed her the paper. "This is an official statement clearing you of any wrongdoing in Samuel Crawford's death. You are free, Mrs. Yates, completely and officially free." The sound of horses approaching made them both turn. Isaac was riding hard, having clearly seen the marshal's horse and badge from a distance. He dismounted before his horse had fully stopped and strode over to Delilah, placing himself between her and the marshal. "What is going on here?" he demanded. "Isaac, it is all right," Delilah said quickly, touching his arm. "This is Marshall Cooper. He came to tell me that I am cleared of any charges related to Samuel Crawford's death." Isaac's fierce expression softened into confusion. "What?" Marshall Cooper explained again, patiently going through the details. As he talked, Isaac's arm came around Delilah's waist, pulling her close. When the marshal finished, Isaac let out a long breath. "So she is free, truly free, truly free. As far as the law is concerned, she acted in self-defense, and no charges will ever be filed." Isaac turned to Delilah, and the relief in his face mirrored her own. "Did you hear that? It is over. Finally, after all these years, it is over." Delilah nodded, unable to speak through her tears. Marshall Cooper cleared his throat. "I will leave the paperwork with you. If anyone ever questions Mrs. Yates about the incident, show them this document. It should satisfy any concerns." He mounted his horse, then paused. "For what it is worth, Mrs. Yates, I think you have built a good life here. You deserve to enjoy it without fear." "Thank you," Delilah managed. "Thank you so much." After the marshal rode away, Isaac held Delilah while she cried. These were not tears of sadness, but of relief so profound it was almost painful. The burden she had been carrying for 12 years, the guilt and fear that had shadowed even her happiest moments, was finally lifted. "It is over," she said again, needing to hear the words spoken aloud. "It is really over." "It is over," Isaac confirmed, kissing the top of her head. "You are free, my love. Free to live without fear, free to be completely happy, free to just be Delilah Yates, beloved wife and mother." The children came running out of the house, Emily in the lead, having apparently disobeyed Delilah's instruction to stay inside. James, Sarah, and Daniel followed, all looking worried. "Mama, are you crying?" Emily asked. "Did that man hurt you?" Delilah crouched down, gathering her youngest daughter into her arms. "These are happy tears, sweetheart. That man brought very good news." "What news?" Daniel wanted to know. Isaac looked at Delilah, a question in his eyes. They had never told the children about her past, seeing no reason to burden them with such dark knowledge. But perhaps now was the time for truth. Your mother did something very brave a long time ago, Isaac said carefully. She defended herself against a bad man who tried to hurt her. The marshal came to tell us officially that she did the right thing and she does not have to worry about it anymore. Mama is a hero, Sarah asked, her green eyes wide. Yes, Isaac said firmly. Mama is a hero. James, old enough to understand more than his siblings, came over and hugged Delilah tightly. I am glad the bad man did not hurt you, Mama. Me too, baby, me too. That night, after the children were in bed, Isaac and Delilah sat on the porch together watching the stars. Delilah held the document from Marshal Cooper, reading it over and over, still not quite believing it was real. How do you feel? Isaac asked. Light, Delilah answered. Like I have been carrying a heavy weight and someone finally took it from me. I did not realize how much it was affecting me until it was gone. I wish you had not had to carry it for so long. I would not change anything, Delilah said truthfully. If I had not run from Kansas City, I would not have come to Bentonville. If I had not come to Bentonville, I would not have met you. Every hard thing I went through led me to this life, to you, to our children. I regret nothing. Isaac pulled her close, and they sat in comfortable silence for a long time. Finally, he said, Do you remember what you said to me the first time I told you I loved you? I told you I would only disappoint you. And I told you that you had already made me the happiest man. I want you to know that is still true. Every day with you is a gift, Delilah. Every smile, every laugh, every moment we share. You have never disappointed me, not once. You have made me happier than I ever thought possible, Delilah said. You saved me, Isaac, in every way a person can be saved. We saved each other, Isaac corrected. I was just going through the motions before you arrived. You gave me a reason to really live again. They made love that night with a passion and tenderness that spoke of their deep connection. It was a celebration of freedom, of love, of a future that was finally, fully theirs without shadows from the past. The years that followed were the best of Delilah's life. Free from fear, she threw herself completely into her family and community. She became involved in the Bentonville Ladies' Aid Society, helping to raise funds for a new school. She taught Sunday school at the church. She hosted dinners and gatherings at the ranch, opening her home to friends and neighbors. The children continued to grow and thrive. James became his father's right hand, a skilled rancher who shared Isaac's vision for the future. By the time he was 16, he was managing significant aspects of the operation. Sarah developed a talent for art and spent hours sketching the landscape and animals around the ranch. Daniel, true to his energetic nature, was always the first to volunteer for any adventure, whether it was breaking a new horse or exploring a distant corner of the property. Emily, the baby, was sharp as a tack and charmed everyone she met with her quick wit and sunny disposition. In 1895, Isaac and Delilah celebrated their 17th wedding anniversary. They were in their 40s now, with gray beginning to show in their hair and lines on their faces, earned through laughter and hard work. Their children were nearly grown, with James 18, Sarah 17, Daniel 15, and Emily 8. We are getting old, Isaac said with a laugh as they slow danced in the parlor to music from the gramophone he had purchased as an anniversary gift. Speak for yourself, Delilah retorted, just as she had years before. I am still young and beautiful. You are, Isaac agreed seriously. You are more beautiful now than the day I met you. Time has only made me love you more, sweet talker, Delilah teased, but she was pleased. I am serious. Looking back over these 17 years, I cannot think of a single moment I would change. Well, except maybe I wish I had found you sooner so we could have had even more time together. We have had a good life, Delilah said softly. A truly good life. and we will have many more good years. I plan to keep you around for at least another 50 years. 50 years. I will be 91. Then I will be 99. We will be the oldest couple in Arkansas, sitting on this porch in our rocking chairs, still holding hands and still in love. The image made Delilah smile. It was not hard to picture this future Isaac described. They had built something solid and lasting, a love that could weather any storm. In 1898, James married a lovely young woman named Catherine from a neighboring ranch. The wedding was a grand affair, with half the county in attendance. Delilah cried through the entire ceremony, overwhelmed with pride and joy and just a touch of sadness at seeing her firstborn take this step into adulthood. "He is still ours," Isaac reminded her as they watched James and Catherine dance at the reception. "He is just sharing himself now. I know. I am happy for him, truly. But he was my baby, they all were, and now they are growing up and leaving, and soon it will just be you and me again." "Is that such a terrible thought?" Delilah looked up at her husband, seeing the mischief in his eyes. "No, not terrible at all, actually. We can be newlyweds again." "Exactly what I was thinking." Sarah married in 1900 at age 22 to a teacher who appreciated her artistic nature. Daniel left for college in Little Rock that same year, wanting to study veterinary medicine. Only Emily remained at home, now 13 and in no hurry to grow up. The ranch house, which had been so full of noise and activity for so many years, became quieter. Isaac and Delilah found themselves rediscovering each other, going on long rides like they had in the early days of their courtship, having leisurely dinners where they talked for hours about everything and nothing. "I love our children," Isaac said one evening. "But I have to admit, having you to myself again has its advantages." "Such as?" Delilah asked with a knowing smile. "Such as being able to do this whenever I want." He kissed her deeply, and they ended up making love on the parlor sofa like a couple of reckless youths. In 1903, James and Catherine made Isaac and Delilah grandparents for the first time with the birth of a son. They named Isaac James, after both his grandfather and father. Delilah held her grandson for the first time and felt her heart expand in ways she had not known were possible. The love she felt for this tiny person was as strong as what she felt for her own children. "You are crying again," Isaac teased, though his own eyes were suspiciously wet. "I am allowed. I am a grandmother now." "We are grandparents," Isaac corrected, "which officially makes us old." "Nonsense. We are distinguished." Over the next few years, more grandchildren arrived. Sarah and her husband had twin girls. Daniel returned from college and opened a veterinary practice in Bentonville, marrying his college sweetheart and having 3 children in quick succession. Even Emily eventually married, at age 23, to a young rancher who reminded Delilah very much of Isaac. The ranch house was filled with grandchildren every Sunday, their laughter and chaos bringing life and energy. Isaac taught them to ride horses, just as he had taught their parents. Delilah baked cookies and told stories and spoiled them shamelessly. "We are blessed," Isaac said one Sunday evening after the last grandchild had been collected by their parents. He and Delilah were sitting on the porch, as they did most evenings, holding hands and watching the sun set. "So blessed," Delilah agreed. "Sometimes I still cannot believe this is my life." "Believe it. You earned every bit of this happiness." "We earned it," Delilah corrected. "Together." In 1910, Isaac and Delilah celebrated their 32nd wedding anniversary. They were in their 60s now, truly old by any measure, but both were still healthy and active. Isaac still ran the ranch, though with much more help from James and Daniel. Delilah still cooked, though Sarah and her daughters-in-law had taken over much of the daily kitchen work. 32 years, Isaac marveled. More than half my life spent loving you. The best half, Delilah said. Definitely the best half. Do you remember what I said to you when I asked you to marry me? That I wanted to grow old with you. I remember everything you said that day. Well, I have officially kept my promise. We have grown old together. But you know what? What? You are still the most beautiful woman I have ever seen, and I love you more now than I did when we were young. Delilah leaned her head on Isaac's shoulder. I love you more too. I did not think it was possible to love someone as much as I love you. We are going to have a good long run yet, Isaac said confidently. Another 30 years at least. You said that before. We were supposed to make it to 99, remember? And we will. Just you wait and see. As it turned out, Isaac was right in a way. They had many more good years together, years filled with grandchildren and great-grandchildren, with community events and quiet evenings at home, with the small joys and occasional sorrows that make up a long life lived well. Isaac passed away peacefully in his sleep in 1923 at the age of 75. He went to bed one night after a particularly good day filled with family and woke up in heaven, as the pastor said at his funeral. Delilah was devastated by his loss, but she was also grateful. Grateful that they had 45 years together. Grateful that he had not suffered. Grateful for the legacy they had built together. She lived another 8 years after Isaac's death, surrounded by children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, all of them bearing the mark of the love Isaac and Delilah had shared. She told stories about their courtship and marriage, ensuring that future generations would know how their family began. She talked about Isaac constantly, keeping his memory alive through words and laughter and tears. On a warm autumn evening in 1931, sitting on the porch of the ranch house where she had spent most of her adult life, Delilah closed her eyes and simply did not open them again. She was 81 years old, and she died with a smile on her face, dreaming of a handsome cowboy who had once told her that she had already made him the happiest man. At her funeral, the church was packed with family and friends, all of them there to celebrate a life well lived. James, now 51 and looking more like his father every year, gave the eulogy. He talked about his mother's strength and kindness, about how she had built a home filled with love, about how she and Isaac had been the foundation on which their entire family was built. My parents taught us what real love looks like, James said, his voice steady despite his grief. They showed us that love is not just a feeling but a choice you make every single day. They chose each other every day for 45 years, and that choice created everything we have. Their love gave us life and purpose and an example to live up to. We are all better people because of them. Delilah was buried next to Isaac in the Bentonville cemetery, under a stone that read, Delilah Yates, beloved wife, mother, grandmother, and friend. She loved deeply and was deeply loved. The ranch stayed in the family, passing from generation to generation, each one adding their own mark but never forgetting the love story that had started it all. The house was preserved carefully, with many of the original furnishings kept as family heirlooms. The porch where Isaac and Delilah had spent so many evenings together became a sacred space, where new generations of the family would sit and talk and watch the sunset, continuing the tradition that had begun so long ago. Stories about Isaac and Delilah became family legends, told and retold at gatherings. The story of how they met, with Delilah arriving desperate and afraid and Isaac taking a chance on a stranger. The story of their courtship, tender and sweet despite the secrets between them. The story of Isaac's proposal, and how he had told Delilah that she had already made him the happiest man. The story of their wedding and the life they built together, and the love that sustained them through decades of joy and hardship. Their descendants would look at the old photographs, at Isaac with his steady gaze and strong hands, at Delilah with her green eyes and gentle smile, and they would see the love that radiated from both of them, even through the faded images. They would touch the wedding rings that had been passed down, simple gold bands worn thin by years of wear. They would read the letters Isaac and Delilah had written to each other during the brief times they were separated, words of love and longing that were as powerful decades later as they had been when first written. And they would understand that what Isaac and Delilah had shared was rare and precious. It was the kind of love that transcended time and circumstance, that overcame fear and built something lasting and beautiful. It was the kind of love that started with a frightened woman and a kind man, grew through trust and tenderness, and bloomed into a legacy that would endure for generations. In the end, Delilah had been wrong. She had told Isaac that she would only disappoint him, but she had done exactly the opposite. She had made him happy every single day of their life together. And he had done the same for her, giving her the home and family and love she had thought were forever beyond her reach. Their story was a testament to the power of second chances, to the healing that comes from being truly loved, to the possibility of redemption and new beginnings. It was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, when fear and despair seem overwhelming, hope can still break through. And sometimes, that hope comes in the form of a cowboy with kind eyes who looks at a desperate woman and sees not her mistakes but her potential, not her past but her future. Isaac and Delilah Yates lived, loved, and left behind a legacy that would echo through time. Their love story, born in the wild west of Arkansas in the late 1800s, became the foundation for a family that would grow and thrive for generations. And at the heart of it all was a simple truth, spoken on a hilltop at sunset by a man proposing to the woman he loved. "You have already made me the happiest man." Those words and the love they represented were the beginning of everything that came after. They were a promise kept, a future built, a life well lived. They were, in every way that mattered, the happily ever after that both Isaac and Delilah deserved. And somewhere in whatever comes after this life, Isaac and Delilah were together again, sitting on a porch under endless stars, holding hands and watching sunsets that never end, still in love after all this time, still choosing each other, still happy. Forever and always together. The end of their earthly story, but never truly the end of their love, which would continue in the hearts and lives of everyone they had touched, generation after generation. Proof that real love never dies but only transforms, becoming something eternal and unbreakable, a light that guides those who come after toward their own chances at happiness and hope.